Greetings, distinguished followers, chosen chimp here, and welcome to my review of Lucky Day, the fourth episode in the brand new series of Doctor Who. I hope you are all doing well. Just to let you know, this review will contain spoilers, and you really do not want this episode spoiled. So, if you haven't watched it and you want to watch it, then don't watch this. But then go and watch it, and then come back and watch this, so we can all talk about it together and chow down on a big bowl of leek and chicken falafels. So, continuing their quest to triangulate the TARDIS's position so they can get Belinda home, the Doctor and Belle land in London New Year's Eve 2007. It is here that they meet a young Conrad Clark, and this chance encounter leads Conrad Clark to engage in a lifelong fascination with the mysterious traveller known as the Doctor. It is present day, he is an adult, and he has established his own happy-go-lucky podcast listened to by thousands, all about who the Doctor really is. It is during this that he encounters one of the Doctor's former companions, a one Ruby Sunday. Not only does he interview Ruby Sunday about her experiences with the Doctor, but they also become something of an item. Aww. But trouble is afoot. The Shriek creature has marked Conrad for prey. And that means at some point in the future, this creature will come back and eat Conrad to bits. How will Conrad escape from this terrible fate? That is definitely the synopsis of this episode, isn't it? Misleading trailer. Yeah, I was worried about this one. I was worried because it seems to me that what we have on our hands so far is a very solid series of Doctor Who. Let's be real here. We have had 3 consistent, unique, and very well-crafted episodes by my reckoning. Speaking of which, The Well. So, I reviewed it. And looking back, it kind of feels like maybe I dunked on it a little bit too hard. Maybe I was nitpicking certain bits just for the sake of nitpicking, which isn't really a nuanced critique at all. It's just trying to be clever. I don't know. It took me a while to make up my mind, but now the dust has settled and I thought back to this episode. It's stuck in my mind, and just, man, what a brilliant episode that was, through and through. Possibly not perfect, but brilliant. I stand by my conviction that that was the greatest jump scare in the history of revived Doctor Who, and so yeah, it led me to think that maybe I'm just trying too hard to be a smart reviewer. Maybe in order to give you guys the best reviews and the best content that I can, maybe I should just kind of sit back and let these episodes wash over me and just enjoy the ride and not really talk about the possible metaphors and allegories and the politics and all of that. And then this came along and ruined everything. So yeah, I was worried about it because according to the trailer, this was basically going to break the consistency, break the flow by having Belinda return home prematurely, only 4 episodes into the series, and also have a return to Ruby Sunday a little bit prematurely. I mean, we saw her a little bit in Joy to the World at the end, which means she's only really been gone for 3 episodes, which means surely absence hasn't made the heart grow fonder yet. And also this lovey-dovey thing of her and this fella, and a fairly kind of placid, one-dimensional story of a monster marking him for prey. But good news, we got worked. It was a work. I told you guys about this before. I like it when trailers work you. It was a completely misleading trailer in a good way. Just like the trailer for 73 Yards was last series. It's completely and utterly not in any way, shape or form representative of the episode of Doctor Who that we actually get. And I couldn't be more grateful for that. I thought this was going to be a frustrating bit of filler. I thought this was going to mark the beginning of the end for this series. But no, it's a great deal more complicated than that. And where the dickens do we start with this one? Oh boy, oh boy. So, the Doctor and Conrad, it's true, they do start dating.
It's Ruby and Conrad, you absolute donkey.
It's true, there is a creature called the Shriek, which has marked Conrad for prey. But the work is that the Doctor and Belinda have nothing to do with this episode, really. The Doctor and Ruby Sunday turn up in this episode in flashback form in one of Conrad's recent memories, and it is a flashback that is set almost directly after the Devil's Chord, according to Ruby's testimony about recently meeting the Beatles. And this is where Conrad gets marked, this is where he discovers Ruby, and this is where they start dating. They start dating, it's very nice, he seems like a pleasant fella, if a bit of a drip. You know, like some of the dudes that Ruby was dating in 73 Yards, if I recall. And he gets the approval of both of Ruby's mothers and her grandmother, who, in my estimation, really, really dropped the ball on this one. I mean, goodness me, she was sat in her bed researching this guy, looking him up on social media, and you didn't... Okay, right. So... It seems a fairly fruitful encounter. She is talking about her time with the Doctor. Yikes. She is giving him a detailed description as to what the shriek does and how it acts and what happens to the surrounding area. Yikes. And then when their relationship gets a little bit more intimate, she starts telling him about maybe possibly she has PTSD, about her experiences with the Doctor, what with the goblins dangling off of a ladder, seeing the world turn to dust. Yep, that'll do it. And her general problem, which is a running problem of all the companions trying to get back on their feet after their time with the Doctor, and that is the general problem of letting go. She basically pours her heart out to this Conrad fella, and this culminates in a pub meeting where she meets all of Conrad's friends and they have a drink, and then suddenly the lights go out, there are mysterious noises outside, and a startled lady runs in and starts talking about a tapping at the door, or words to that effect. I cannot believe Ruby fell for this again. But then again, does she even remember the 73 yards? Is that... I can't quite get my head around the ultimate resolve of that, whether the memories pop back into her head, or I don't know. If I know Doctor Who like I think I do, she remembers and she doesn't remember. Anyway, it's a ruse, it's a work. And if you think she's silly for falling for this, good news, Unit fell for it as well. It's a Unit episode again, folks. It feels like it's been so long, even though it's only been a handful of episodes. Good to see them back again. We'll get more into that in a second. Oh yes, we will. Unit fell for it. Kate Lethbridge, Colonel Ibrahim, Shirley Bingham, they're all there on the scene with the choppers and the vans and the torches and the guns, and the two monsters are kiddies in a suit, part of Conrad's brigade. It's a work. Conrad is a very nasty fella. He is the brainchild behind Think Tank, a nutty conspiracy theory based online content mill trying to spread the myth that all of the stuff that we have seen in Doctor Who is actually a lie, propagated by Unit for reasons. He even claims that the Cybermen don't exist. How dare he? But more horrid than that is that he has been working Ruby all along, trying to get to know her, putting up with her characteristics which he deems grating and cringeworthy, just so he can get to this point. It is Think Tank's ultimate step into stardom, bringing Unit and a former companion into the limelight so they can stream it, podcast it, and cement their claim that this is all one big conspiracy. Right then, so it's not particularly difficult to see where Doctor Who got its inspiration for this character and this storyline from, and I will give you my observations. There will be YouTubers who I admire and respect and whose content I love watching who will undoubtedly give some observations on this that have gone completely over my head because I am a bit of a dimwit. So you have this person who is propagating a lie, propagating a conspiracy. He has many thousands of people on his side. He is getting filthy rich off of his platform, off of the views. Presumably he's got paid promotion for Raid Shadow Legends and Manscape going on in there somewhere. And there is a inconsistency in this mistruth, which I think is very on the nose, whether it was intentional or not. There's this inconsistency in the lie that he is propagating, that units are scrounging off people's tax money and profiteering from it and spreading this lie, but the conspiracy doesn't really go much deeper than that. There is no real sort of tangible theory as to why this military organization would build itself from the ground up in this big tower just to lie to people and steal their tax money. Surely if they built this tower and they had all that money, they wouldn't need to take people's tax. But it's full of riddles and plot holes. But that's what I like about this allegory, is the fact that many conspiracy theories like this, they are ridiculous and are full of inconsistencies and plot holes when you really strip it down. And I like the fact that you've got all the responses from the subscribers taken to their phones and parroting these fallacies that Conrad has been spewing out about UNIT and all the rest. And their theories don't go any deeper than surface level, which I think, again, whether it's intentional or not, I think is very clever layer. It makes no sense. All right, Conrad is clearly a guy that just doesn't care about truth. He later on in the episode, he is faced with aliens. He is faced with the reality of a Doctor Who universe, but is still willing to battle against it. He is still willing to reject reality, as inconsistent as his own story is, which again I think is on the nose and very reflective of people like this. And I also like the fact that he takes the time to have a dig at Shirley, who is disabled, and have a dig about how she is scrounging off benefits. Such influencers and right-wing shit peddlers as they are in real life are steeped somewhere along the lines in a right-wing ideology, that these conspiracy theories are not in fact apolitical as they appear to be on the surface, that somewhere along the lines they are steeped somewhere, they are intertwined somewhere in an element of bigotry. So as far as I can tell, they have really got this. And that is not to say, by the way, that I don't have criticisms of this story, and I will get to those in a second. But, I mean, I saw it coming to a degree. I knew this was too good to be true. I've seen this enough times in stories now, where the nice, shy guy isn't so nice and shy after all. And I saw it coming. There were telltale signs. I mean, the fact that he takes that somewhat peeping Tommy, slightly pervy, almost voyeuristic picture of Ruby from a distance with his phone. That's not nice, and I'm pretty surprised that Ruby just saw that and went, yeah, let's go on a date. Yeah, that's cool. I'm cool with that. I'd still like to get to know you. That's kind of one of the criticisms I have as Ruby's relationship and Ruby's response to this guy that I will get to in more detail. And also that kind of sort of flinch he did at the idea that this companion enjoys flirting with other men, enjoys the company of other men. He does a kind of wince at that. He goes on the defense a little bit, which is telling. And I just knew that this was too good to be true, but I didn't think that he was going to go full-blown red tape on us. But there you go. He basically has all these people on his side, and after this encounter with UNIT, he seems to predominantly get the media on his side. Real life figureheads in the news, in BBC media, such as The One Show, actual presenters playing the part of these people who fall into the trap of believing this fool's BS. Which is meta within meta within meta. That is some mad deep food for thought right here. Whether or not outlets such as the news and the One Show are expressing some kind of admission of guilt for their own potential bias, journalism and presentation in some aspects of their history is a topic for smarter content creators than me, which I hope they will explain whilst I sit on my sofa playing Doom and shoving bananas up my nose. But there you go. So when Conrad gets the general masses, it seems, on his side, and there are protesters rioting outside of unit headquarters, this is when Ruby and Kate Lethbridge get somewhat disturbed and frightened. After all, unit have battled all sorts. They have been in more apocalyptic events than they have had kippers for breakfast. And yet this is a threat unlike any other. This is homegrown to the max. This is born and bred humans going on the offense when really they have been misled. And on a personal note, I don't think that makes them exempt from criticism. I don't think the general masses who have been goaded into this lie are free of guilt, in my personal take on life. I don't know where I'm going with that. Anyway, back to Doctor Who. So they are rioting outside of the door, and you're thinking to yourself, this is a top security base. This is the headquarters of UNIT. They can't possibly... So Conrad gets in because he has an inside man. That inside man is Jordan, who we all clearly see listening to his podcast at the beginning of the episode whilst going to work at Unit HQ. Like I said before, it feels like it's been such a long time since I've done this, whereas in reality it's only been a series or so. The Chosen Chimp is absolutely, wholeheartedly proud to introduce another edition of Unit Doing Stuff. On today's edition, screening your staff. Screening your staff. Flinks, what are you? Nice touch, by the way, with the Albion bigger, better thing. I like the way that they wove that back into it. I like the fact that Doctor Who now has its own micro bigot verse going on in all of this. I like to think that Roger ap Gwilliam in rising in his ranks, should I say, to Prime Minister, saw Conrad Clark as something as a hero growing up in his own childhood. So nice touch there. I picked up on that. That was good. Good continuity. Excellent. And yeah, Conrad storms the base. He has got a gun. He has got a camera. He's done it. How on earth does an everyday human manage to breach unit headquarters at the top level? Gee, I wonder. So he goes face to face with Shirley Bingham, Colonel Ibrahim, Kate Lethbridge, and Ruby Sunday. And Kate Lethbridge is squaring off at him. She is really rattled at this guy, and she knows she's going to beat him. Alright, it's real easy. The thread was planted right from the start. You just release the monster that was tracking him from the beginning, that they have had kept in a secure containment. Monster runs out. It eventually ends with the monster face to face with Conrad, and Conrad is terrified, but then he gets up and tries to rally himself and continue to perpetuate his conspiracy theory nonsense, and then he gets his arm bitten off, and that's pretty much the end of the story. Now, let me get to the criticisms here, for I have 3 main criticisms that I would like to discuss with you all. So the first one is Kate Lethbridge. Get a grip of yourself, okay? This is, she allows herself to get far too disarmed by this. Her voice is wobbled, she is shaken up, and yeah, like I said, this is a threat like the kind that Unit isn't used to, but she should be standing there already planning how to squash this little tiny insect under her weakest toe. And yet he talks to her about her father, and she says, my father is 10 times, 100,000, whatever times the man you are. And yes, it's true, but it seems like she is so emotionally disarmed by this guy, and it's like, no, this guy is nothing. You're Kate Lethbridge. Your dad was the Brigadier. I mean, I suppose it's a small nitpick in the end, because she does do the right thing. You know, and the fact that she mentions the Brigadier, I mean, the Brigadier would have just shot him. Let's be honest here. The Brigadier would have performed a few extremely heavy-handed right-left hooks on this guy. You'd have heard the punching noises loud and clear, and when Conrad was on the floor, Brigadier would have pulled out his pistol and shot him square in the chest and killed him. Come on. Come on, let's be honest, that's exactly, we all know it, that's what the Brig would have done. I'm not disappointed in Unit letting this guy breach the top floor of the Unit HQ, because I've just come to expect that from Unit. I have come to expect and come to terms with the fact that we are still living in the camp pantomime 1970s era of Unit. They are still a gaggle of buffoons, even in modern day Doctor Who. Alright, they have been hypnotised by the Star Beast. One of them got turned into a ball. They got completely disarmed by the future ghost of an old woman standing 73 yards away. They're never going to get it right, okay? They're crap, they will always be crap, and that is why I love Unit to bits. And I will always be happy when they turn up to fondle and drop the ball. I do like Colonel Ibrahim, though. Give this man his own episode. I like his face. I want to get to know this guy more. So, criticism number 2. Okay, this is a bit of a deeper one. Conrad. Okay, so he's beyond redemption. He's a real jerk. All right, he's an absolute dick. And we all know the real life people that he is representing. Fine, but what I don't like is the fact that his origin story is the fact that he had a somewhat abusive mother. She was abusive to him. She sees him as a liability while she's trying to get hammered at a New Year's party with some fella that she's presumably met. She hits him and berates him, which is disgusting behaviour. And as I always say, when it comes to serious topics like this, I don't know how it feels being a child and having a parent like that. I don't know how it feels, but I understand that it is just completely deplorable, horrific behaviour, and is not to be taken lightly in any shape or form. And I don't like the fact that this is probably the reason why Conrad has grown up into this broken, obsessive, bigoted, evil person. I don't think it's fair that a bad person who is flawed in just about every way has to have that as their template, because how must that make people feel who went through those experiences as a child when they're trying to grow up and do the right thing? When Conrad was the wet drip at the beginning, I was kind of hoping that he wasn't going to turn heel for that very reason, and when he did, I was like, okay, because I was on for the ride. But looking back, I just wish that wasn't there. I don't think it was necessary, and I think it was a little bit of a dick move on Doctor Who's part. I would have been perfectly happy if Conrad would have gone, you know, if his childhood was with a loving mum and dad, and maybe more money than sense or something like that. I'd have been much more satisfied if he had everything handed to him and all the right upbringings, but he still turned out just to be a real knob in adulthood. I'd have been much happier with that, and I'd have deemed it somewhat more realistic as well. So I just don't think it was fair. Okay, I think it's a bit of a tired trope, and I think TV needs to let that one go. If you have had a abusive experience as a child, I think your representation should be more positive than to be the broken villain. Okay, that's what I think. I haven't gone through those experiences as a child myself. All right. But still, from the outside looking in, I don't think it's fair. And finally, Ruby. It's just horrible. All right, this is horrible what this guy did to her. Okay, he coerced her. All right, it's a form of abuse. He dated her. They had a relationship. Presumably, it was intimate. And the mental scarring that's going to leave on Ruby. And I'm just thinking, poor Ruby. Oh my God. All right, she's only a character, I know, but after all the things and the reconciliation with her mother, and I had kind of reservations about that. And I was a bit too easygoing, but at least there was a silver lining. This is... if you're gonna do this in Doctor Who, if you're gonna have this if you're gonna have this as something that you put upon a character, then I'm sorry, you've got to go all in, okay? Because this is serious. This is trauma. This man is beyond redemption now for what he did to this woman, okay? It's disgusting, and how she's going to come out at the end of that is something that I think audiences are going to have to micromanage. They're going to have to watch really carefully to see how Ruby comes out of this, all right? And it's good to a degree, because like I said, this guy, he's not getting a second chance. I'm sorry, no, he is not getting a second chance. No, he is not. And it's fine, because he says thank you to Ruby, and Ruby says go to hell. Good, all right? And then Kate Lethbridge says, are you okay? And she says, no, not really. And I'm thinking, understandable. But then she goes back to the Doctor thing about the trauma that she had when she was with the Doctor travelling. And the fact that she is having trouble reconciling with the fact that she has had to move on from the Doctor. And it's like that kind of overshadows this thing that this guy has done, okay? When you do something like this in Doctor Who, when you make it part of the character's history, you are going to have to go all in. So what happens to Ruby next and how she deals with this is very important. And they can't just forget that. They can't just sweep it under the rug, okay? This is serious, and now they are going to have to find some way of committing to it. So obviously the big question then is how does the Doctor deal with this, all right? The Doctor, the companions mean a lot to the Doctor, okay? The Doctor is a lovely guy. Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor is pure compassion and pure nice things, but every Doctor, all right, every Doctor has a bit of Doomslayer in him, for any Doomslayer fans there, and this is the Doctor's, okay? I'm thinking right back to David Tennant in his very first episode when he says, that's the kind of guy that I am, a no second chances guy. And I'm thinking this is what Ncuti Gatwa has got to transmit to the audience as regard to this fella, and he kind of does, because Conrad is whisked away into the TARDIS. I don't really know how that works with the snapping of the fingers. I actually don't care. It's not really relevant. It's fine, okay? I'm willing to go with that. And the Doctor says to Conrad that this is your future fate. You will die cold and alone in a well of hate, or words to that effect. Which is good, all right? I was worried he was going to give this guy a second chance and show him along his own time stream and show him the error of his ways. He doesn't do anything overtly nasty to him himself. He doesn't exercise violence himself. There is a kind of pacifistic thing, but he very kind of bluntly and brutally tells him that he is going to die cold and alone in a well of his own hate. And he does it unapologetically. So I think that tracks. All right. I think how they deal with this guy, I think, is pretty much on point. So, like I said, you might, maybe I'm going too deep into this, but I mean, they started it, all right? They brought this element into the storyline, so now I'm going to run with it, and now it's kind of all I can think of is poor Ruby, oh, God. So, yeah. Given that I initially thought that this was going to be something of a la-di-da episode that may have potentially dismantled the momentum of this series, I was pleasantly surprised. There was a lot of food for thought, a good few twists, and some good drama. I wouldn't say it was perfect for the reasons that I have just listed, and like I said, smarter people than me with a more intimate and learned understanding of some of the themes and topics will go into this in a greater detail that I have the mental capacity to do so. But on the surface level, I think it hits home some very interesting and very intelligent points, and all in all, I personally think the concepts laid down here were handled very intelligently. I think there is still a very consistent element to this series. We are exactly halfway in, and I think that this series is going in a solid direction so far. And I think this episode has the breadth and the depth and the scope to convey to audiences that there is a newfound solidity and a newfound clarity to this show that didn't exist quite so much in the first one. I think it's looking good so far. However, only time will tell on this episode. When we get to the end of the series and when we get to the end of the Shooty Gotwa era in general, whenever that may be, I think we can then look back on this episode and see, does it really fit into the greater mythology of this era, and does it make good on some of the sensitive and controversial topics that it lays down in this story. So as it stands, as it is, I think this episode was a winner. If you disagree on the grounds that you think the representation of characters who have taken abuse in their real life was not good, then please let me know. I think in terms of conspiracy, foolish lunatics, from that aspect, I think Conrad Clark was a character completely on the money. I would just like to say that I am a huge fan of the community in my videos at the moment. I have read some very intelligent, very articulate comments on all three of my other reviews so far, and people have conversed with each other in a diplomatic and intelligent and respectful way, and I just love reading all that stuff, man. I'm really sort of proud and happy of everyone that has weighed in on that, and given that this is an episode that is going to ruffle some of the wrong feathers, I sincerely hope that it continues that way. Thank you very much to you all. So that has been my review of Lucky Day, and I hope to see you next week for my review of next week's episode. There it is there. The bandwidth on my iPlayer completely crapped out there, but it looks interesting. I do this every week now, don't I? I talk about the entire episode, and just as I'm about to plug all my stuff, I remember that there was another Fliss Mud. That's what I'm calling her now, Fliss Mud. Until they clarify exactly what the hell is going on with this character, Fliss Mud, then I'm going to call her Fliss Mud. Alright, she's letting Conrad out. She says, I'm the governor, and today's your lucky day. Nice, because that was the title of the episode. Is she being fourth wally again? We are getting some more substantial hints that she may be some kind of villain. That's cool. I hope she is. I do wish they'd hurry up with this, but that kind of sort of slightly villainous gesture of Fliss Mud is kind of makes me mildly more optimistic as to where that's going. I just hope that it goes somewhere and it isn't a silly dead end. We will see. thanks once again for watching. If you want to check me out on social media, then come say hello on Blue Sky at thechosenchimp.bsky.social. And thank you very much to David Green, my new Patreon member, a distinguished follower. Yes, David is. Thank you, David. If you want to become a distinguished follower, then head on over to my Patreon at patreon.com/thechosenchimp. For just £1 a month, you can request your Doctor Who topic for review, and I will mention your name in these videos. David Green, you are a legend. TikTok. So, have a good week, everyone. I hope you are all doing as well can be. Most importantly, for the love of Pete and his world, please do have a good one.